is a stigma about the whole grey building, a stigma that must date from the day it was opened in 1850. For it had been set up under an Act of the English Parliament as the Central Criminal Lunatic Asylum.
For the first time in 175 years, we wanted unrestricted access to one of the oldest purpose-built psychiatric hospitals in Europe. Today, we go beyond Dundrum's infamous wall. I am inside the grounds of Central Mental Hospital, alone. In today's Urbandoned video, join us as we explore Ireland's most historic abandoned asylum.
We're heading down towards the front of the site. I think actually it's just appearing on the right here.
Yeah, this is the wall.
My days, it's big on this side, isn't it?
Yeah, thankfully I don't think we're gonna use this side, but that's pretty imposing for...
Yeah, just a bit. This is the front.
Oh yeah, security.
It's got all the redevelopment signs on it as well. Maybe we can see a guard.
You'd flash a high-vis.
Yeah. It's definitely an active site in some sense.
Yeah. Let's go and recce it.
Dundrum any day of the week. Buses serve the busy suburbia as Dublin sprawls outwards. But in the middle of this suburb, 18-foot-high walls impose. And a huge locked gate, the gate of the Central Mental Hospital.
It is early 2026. We are in Ireland, targeting potentially our greatest asylum exploration to date. The first time anyone has had unrestricted access in this psychiatric hospital since its construction in 1850. In 1843, a Parliament group urged the creation of a specialist hospital for mentally ill people, separating psychiatric care from imprisonment. By 1850, the Central Criminal Lunatic Asylum opened in Dublin, one of the earliest purpose-built psychiatric hospitals in Europe. 172 years later, in 2022, the historic structure had reached its end. Patients were transferred to a new facility, but the site wasn't left vacant. From 2023, the dormant land housed asylum seekers within tented accommodation on site, which caused strong reaction. Although the asylum buildings were vacant, local protest causing increased security meant that it wouldn't be until 2026 that the temporary accommodation was removed, and we could plan to infiltrate the infamous complex. It's the day before. We're doing our usual drone recce, just scouting out the site. There's a lot of activity. There was migrant camps on site, and they're currently being demolished, which is why we've chosen this time to come. I can see lots of cameras, I can see security positioned at the front by the gate that we're obviously going to stray away from. And we're just scouting the perimeter wall as well, which is very high. We're trying to work out the best place to go about getting over it safely onto the other side. As for the asylum, it looks immense, just like some of the massive ones that we've seen over the years. I really just can't wait until tomorrow morning.
We found the cheapest ladder we can and a bit of rope because we think it's a little bit too short for the wall. So we're going to tie it on, ready for the morning.
It's the night before. Me and Theo are just about to get a very small amount of sleep. We are feeling nervous, excited, I'd say.
Yeah, I think there's one particular bit and it's the wall once we're over there, and I think that's going to be the hardest bit for me, but once we're over there I think we've got a nice plan to get inside. So
we've got a good idea of what we need to do to get over the wall, but a lot of variables we'll have to wait and see when we're there.
Yeah, we've planned an early morning for that reason, so nobody can see us, and so we'll be up about 3 or 4 and then we'll be straight to it.
Yeah, there's nerves, but there's also excitement about what could happen tomorrow, what we could see. If we do get in, this asylum could be incredible. It's probably one of the last like that across the UK and Ireland.
And that one we'll get some rest.
A little bit of sleep, and hopefully it goes well in a few hours.
Yeah. Right, it's early morning and we're abroad about.
And when we're travelling, we can't go anywhere without the use of a VPN. Going from country to country exposes us and many others to a range of online issues, and we can combat these with Surfshark. We travel to many different countries all the time exploring abandoned buildings, and posting and staying on top of our socials isn't easy. Surfshark VPN eliminates the use of public Wi-Fi networks that pose data threats, such as hackers obtaining passwords and your personal information. Once we are connected, we are finally safe on our travels. In fact, the biggest positive we found using Surfshark was the ability to remove content and application restrictions in areas of the world far away. Being able to use the same apps as we do back home stress-free gave us the chance to take it easy, relax, and film some of the best abandoned locations we have ever come across.
Definitely, it didn't make home feel so distant.
So, if you want an easy app to deal with the ever-growing world of cyber problems, then use the link surfshark.com/urbandoned and use the code urbandoned at checkout to get an extra 4 months on your Surfshark plan today.
On with today's video.
How are we feeling?
Good, I think. Yeah, well rested. We know the plan, which is always the important thing with stuff like this. I'm starting to have doubts about the height of the ladder, which is a little bit unnerving, so we've got to get over that wall pretty quickly to make sure we're not seen. I've just got to lock in mentally. We'll be in no time.
Hopefully. Let's get it.
Let's go.
Say mine.
Unfortunately, our fears came to light and our ladder was not the height it needed to be. The light is starting to come up and we might have to give this one a miss for the time being, with plans to come back in the future. When we come back, if we do, and we get it, it won't feel so bad. Right now, with the time we got up and the effort we put into making this work, it's a little bit unfortunate and annoying. But yeah, there's not really much you can do. This happens sometimes. Keep looking until like there's no light, and see if we can come up with anything we can do on this trip. But for now, it doesn't seem like it's going to be today that we get central mental. Hours have passed. We have visited another abandoned building, and now we're about to return to the asylum and give it another go There's been some strange developments, hasn't there, Theo?
Just a couple. Here I am. Careful, lad. Text me when you're at the bottom.
Yeah, fucking hair. Down all good. Ladder in a bush. Fortunately, we lost Theo. He was defeated by his fear of heights, which is understandable. It was pretty sketchy. So now, as far as I'm aware, unless there's any roaming workers or security, I am inside the grounds of Central Mental Hospital, alone. Towards the elusive asylum building that I'm about to get a really good view of. Very, very excited and scared.
And then, surprise, nearly 35 acres of luxuriant garden, so incongruous after the walls seen from outside, so like the country estate of a 19th century aristocrat. But this 19th century home has little nobility about it. There's a stigma about the whole grey building, a stigma that must date from the day it was opened in 1850. For it had been set up under an Act of the English Parliament of 1845 as the Central Criminal Lunatic Asylum, and that was its name until 1960, when modern psychology favoured the title the Central Mental Hospital.
Keeping an eye out for cameras or sensors. I feel like it's one of those places where they just don't expect anyone to get on site in the first place. I'm hoping that's the case. Wouldn't want to be playing cat and mouse in here alone. We're closing in on the rear of the asylum building, as you can see. There's many almost barn-like buildings that look like they've been abandoned for absolutely ages. First sign of a sensor. Couple of them, I'm pretty sure. One on the chimney and one on that wooden board on the building. I'm gonna have to avoid them. Here we go. Had to put the camera away to do a bit of climbing. But I believe I dodged the sensors. So unless there's any more, hopefully we can get in. Can't see any. Wow. This could be incredible inside. With the asylum seeker accommodation removed, parts of the expansive grounds had begun redevelopment. However, the areas surrounding the listed hospital appeared untouched since its closure in 2022. Okay. You can tell by my sweaty face, I've just climbed the shit out of this asylum, and finally, I've been rewarded. Let's go inside. Oh my god.
I might be a bit breathless for at least the start of this exploration, but I'm not kidding when I say I just climbed almost every roof of here. It was very sealed, but it doesn't matter now. Old asylum flooring, decay, a corridor courtyard. Yeah. It really does not matter now. Oh wow. Yeah, I kind of forgot where I was. This is straight into the main hall. Okay. Not bad. You can see where the old features were, but it's been modernised. Still pretty cool though. This looks like the kitchens. It's nice minimalistic decay. And then it gets not minimalistic here. You can see when it last closed all the COVID signs on the floor. And there's the main hall on the left and then the main building on the right. We're going to work our way around this corridor to the main building. Okay, I have spied something that I cannot resist going towards. Missed it when I came in, but that is a perfectly intact tennis chair and a retro one at that. Brilliant. Really, really good sign for what might be to come in here. If this is one of the highlights, I'm not complaining.
Like all asylums, the secure site had to be self-sufficient, with all the features necessary for patients and staff to function with limited contact from the outside world. Central Mental Hospital would have catered to patients from across the 32 counties of Ireland as the country's principal psychiatric facility.
At the moment it holds 140 patients, virtually a capacity crowd. 2/3 of them are there by order of the Minister for Justice. That means they appeared in court, some on murder charges, some on lesser criminal charges.
Walking through a structure this historic, with hardly any prior documentation, was already a surreal experience.
The little pink flowers outside makes it almost even more foreboding inside. Let's head towards the main building. Now I've seen a dentist chair, you never know what could be in any of these rooms. Okay, now how modernised is it in here? This looks like a very, very old curtain. Okay, it looks good. It looks really good. There's a hell of a lot going on outside, but as far as we're aware, the inside remains unscathed for now. Probably going to cover one of the lower floors and then head up. In case there are sensors down here, you can see all the powers working. Classic asylum shot. That's the open doors. These are definitely cells, yeah. The little slits with the curtain where they could monitor the patients. It's very reminiscent of Broadmoor. In fact, it is the Irish Broadmoor.
Dundrum's Central Mental Hospital predates England's famous Broadmoor Asylum by a decade,
both pioneering institutions that served as a template for the next century of asylum construction. Here's an example of one of the cells. A little bit of storage, wooden bed, and a toilet. That is about it. Everything has that safety material or feel to it. There's no hard corners.
Well, this patient is what we call a psychopath, you see. He's been in trouble this year for assault and robbery outside. And
This is exhibiting antisocial behaviour.
antisocial behaviour is right, yes. Without any thought for other people's feelings, generally. Psychopaths are very variable, you see, with regard to their moods. They go up and down very easily. They're described as being neurotic, super sensitive, and so on. So then he gets depressed, and he may try to hurt himself up there, and then the doctors think that he'd be better, in a mental hospital as such, as different from the prison. Yeah.
Just a small kitchen for this ward. And there's the old checklist, 2022. I imagine there's bits in this building that have been closed a lot longer. Okay, this feels more like it. This is a classic asylum staircase that always seem to decay more than anywhere else in the buildings. Let's see what the second floor's like. Very, very similar. The rooms are a little bit bigger, it seems. It seems more intact as well with the numbers. "12th of November, party time, last day in Central Mental Hospital." This is the history for me, I don't even need to do any research. Established in 1850. Very, very historic hospital. And as we've already said, one of the last ones like this left, especially full scale. Seems to have a similar format with a little wing coming off from the ward with staff rooms. All still pretty modern. Oh, there's a cell. And then day rooms for the patients to go in, probably be supervised. This is going to be our first look at the front though. It is absolutely gigantic. Reminiscent of a couple of asylums that we did in 2021. 5 years later, I didn't think we'd be doing another one, especially another one that hadn't been seen. This looks better. Holy shit. Look at this decay. This is the hall. The stage to my right. This is pretty nice. Kind of is like the Sunnyside Asylum and one of the Irish ones that we did, or maybe a couple where they have the hall upstairs in the middle of the big building.
Dr. Casson has been there for 6 years now, and Dr. O'Sullivan for 1. And the patients they have to look after are 36 murderers, 50 remand patients, and 54 207 patients. Of that total of 140 patients, 112 are men. Most of them live together, spending their time in the exercise yard or out on the grounds in the summer, and sitting in the corridors, day rooms or billiards room in cold weather. They eat in the communal dining room, except for the patients in the infirmary and those who are very aggressive.
There's the green corridor. More cells and Not as much decay as I would like, but you cannot pick and choose when you're first inside a building like this. Coats hooks there. Maybe for patients or staff. Probably for patients because they're numbered like that. Kitchen there. This is at the end of the wing as far as we can go. Another little day room that looks out towards security. Weekly clinical itinerary. Wow, that is quite the information. Everything was planned for the people in here. Every single minute of every day. Here's a look at the food for the day. So interesting to get this insight. I presume this is just shared bathrooms, but might as well show you one. Don't think they'll be old. No. Although, all the tiles, you can see where the modernisation's taken place. That's quite cool. Maybe this will be kept the same upstairs. No porcelain sink. We've come all the way across the building from the far side. So this should be right at the front. And yeah, seems a bit grander. Presume these rooms will be the offices. Yeah, look at this. Chief Nursing Officer. Stripped completely, but yeah, this is really reminiscent of the asylum we did in Ireland in 2021. We just had a lot more stuff in. Here's your best view of what they're doing currently. Clearing the land for housing, I believe. Hopefully they don't get rid of these beautiful trees, but you can see they have got rid of quite a few. There's all the wood chippings here. Okay, time to head up. Sometimes in asylums, as we've seen before, they close the top floor a lot earlier. But we will see. The way this one's gone so far, I doubt it. Yeah. It's more of the same in here. We'll go through, all the way through, because it's just going to be wards again. I can see on the whiteboard there it also would have closed in 2022. It's a very muted colour scheme. That door's stiff, but yeah. The remains of an old fireplace, but it's been covered over, probably to keep the draft from getting in. Little bits of what this patient was into. Towards the end of the 20th century, the asylum was becoming outdated, with planning for a replacement occurring as early as 2003, concluding that the Dundrum complex wasn't suitable for modern forensic psychiatric treatment. This is the admin section again. Just the same. Stripped offices, modernised. Little bits of decay, which I love. Pretty sure in the room below this wall was also moulding in the same way. It's very unusual to see a building this big being allowed to naturally decay. This is the final wing, I think. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see the decay and original asylum features, although there has been bits. Can't get lucky every time. And clearly, everything in this building was shut in 2022. Probably because they were bursting to the seams and they needed all the space they could get. Not even beds in any of these, so perhaps this was unused for a while. Clearly old cells. This, in case you were wondering, is the projection room. Also sadly modernised. Coming down to the entrance now. Let's do the final wing downstairs. And there it is. Many patients would have come through this door. Some might have not even left. Assessment room. Back at that corridor. Look at the mould up there, Jesus. That's some of the worst I've seen. Some eerie noises down here. Look at this cell. Left all the posters up. Seems like a wide range: jewellery, cars, shoes. Almost 20 years passed with the hospital waiting for a new purpose-built campus in Portrane. Inspectors heavily criticised the building's lack of privacy, limited space and dated facilities, forcing it to refurbish old-fashioned wings to barely meet modern standards. This looks like a super narrow corridor. Maybe more secure cells? Seclusion rooms, perhaps? Yeah, it looks like it. This reminds me a bit more of a prison. Still got that asylum floor there. Yeah. Temporary cells if someone's misbehaving or perhaps more likely of harming themselves or others. There's the camera, one in each cell on the ceiling looking down. Absolutely no privacy in these rooms.
But are they all a similar type of patient in this area? Do you try and keep, the same type of patient in?
We do, yes. We keep the disturbed patients in one particular part of the hospital, and then the better patients, well-ordered patients, they're in the other divisions by themselves, and they just conform to the ordinary way of the house.
The TV is on in here, although it's set to 2063. That is insane. 4 CCTV channels, I imagine, one in each cell, to monitor the people inside. I think this is a little extension, but the wooden flooring is nice. Oh wow. Does make quite the difference, the wooden flooring. I wonder how modern this is, if at all. Because the flooring indicates that it's not, but the beds, well, there's not one in here, look much older. It's only a little one-storey block. Don't know how far this goes on. a little bit more. These glass doorways are very old asylum. What's down here? Presumed bathrooms from the glass door. Oh yeah, toilets and shower area. Modern. I wonder if this bit was built when there was overcrowding problems. That would make sense. It's the first bit so far where I felt a bit uneasy walking through. I think because there's vines covering all the windows. The corridors are quite narrow as well. Could be someone around this corner. Yeah, really interesting. After a treasured few hours alone in the UK and Ireland's oldest abandoned asylum, I would exit the protected grounds without detection, leaving the notorious premises silent once more.
The transfer from Mountjoy to Dundrum came either when they were found guilty and then certified as mentally disturbed, or when they were certified unfit to plead. The other third of the patients are sent by order of the Minister for Health under Section 207 of the Mental Treatment Act of 1945. This is invoked when a patient at a district mental hospital commits an indictable offence. This category of patient is on the increase as mental hospitals become increasingly open. Their facilities for confinement become correspondingly less. In Dundrum, the various types of patient live together, segregated only by the degree of their violent tendencies.
Dundrum's Central Mental Hospital's land is under redevelopment into housing, but the listed building hasn't found a future use yet. Perhaps a fitting end for the core of the asylum model of institutionalisation. Here are some of our photographs captured at the abandoned Central Mental Hospital. If you like the look of them, check out our Instagram page below to see explorations months before they are seen on YouTube. Thanks for watching. It never gets old revealing these fascinating sites to anyone who is interested. We appreciate you for giving us the opportunity to do this. More big videos coming. See you next time.